Hello viewers, today I'm going to show you how to install the Lua programming language on Windows 11. I've opened a new window in Google Chrome, so the first thing I'm going to do is search for the Lua programming language. The first link is what I want, and actually the first thing I'm going to do is to just download the latest release. So let's right click here and open in a new tab and then download latest release, which is 5.4.7. I'm going to go back to the home page and then I'm going to click on Get Started. Unfortunately, although it should be possible to download the latest version as a binary, so that you simply need to install it and off you go, it's not quite that simple. If I open Lua Binaries in a new tab, you'll see the problem. So on here, the latest version is 5.4.2, and that's from 12th of January 2021, and today is the 15th of October 2024, so that's just not going to cut it. The other way of getting the latest version is to build it from source, and lo and behold, we've got some detailed instructions. So let's open that up. In all likelihood, you actually only need to download two things. One we've downloaded already, which is the source code for Lua, and the second one is a C compiler, because it's written in C, to compile it so that you can then install it. So perhaps the first thing you ought to check is whether you actually already have GCC installed on your system. I've opened a command prompt. If you type gcc --version, if it's installed, you'll get version number. And it's not recognized, and that means it's not installed. You can also do this in PowerShell, so we'll do that as well. And we'll go gcc --version, and we get the same result. And just to show this works, I have Python installed, so let's just do that with Python, and you can see the version for Python's 3.12.5. I'm going to do another Google search, and this time I'm going to search for Windows 11 GCC binaries. You can tell I did this earlier to check it actually worked. The top link is the one we want because that's the GNU compiler collection, which is the official website. So let's go to that. And here you can see some information on installing, and what I would recommend for Microsoft Windows is the MinGW W64 project. So let's open that up. Now, I happen to know already the best place to get this, or I think the best place to get this, is WinLibs. Anyway, just to go through the links so that you can see that you're getting something that makes sense in terms of downloading something that's secure and legitimate, is you can see here winlibs.com is recommended. Now these links aren't particularly useful, as you'll see, because this just takes us to, well, it doesn't take us anywhere. If we type in winlibs.com, however, we now have standalone builds of GCC. This is really simple to install. All we need to do is to download it. We're going to use the Universal C runtime because that's the modern way of doing it. I'm on a 64-bit platform, so I'm going to do Win64. I don't need Clang. I actually have Clang installed already, and I install Clang separately. It's downloadable from GitHub in a relatively simple manner. Let's download the 7-zip archive. Now I prefer 7-zip, but for the purposes of this, I'm just going to use the decompression that's available in any new Windows installation. So I'm going to download that. That should come down reasonably quickly, and these will be sitting in my downloads folder. It's come down now. So you can see the two files have downloaded. So what I'm going to do now is go to my C drive, and I'm going to create a build folder. And the reason I'm doing this is the way I like to work is if you download a Windows installer, it will typically install an application to program files. That's great. But if you're building something from source, I probably don't want to put it in program files. I'd probably rather have it in its own folder, and the obvious folder name is applications. But for actually doing the build, I think it's useful to have a separate folder called build, which conveniently will then sit next to applications. So let's create a new folder and call it build. and that will eventually sort, so it's here. The next thing I'm going to do is to dive inside, and I'm going to create another folder called Lua. That means that if I wanted to build another program from source, I'll just create a folder for the name of the application. So let's dive into Lua, and now let's drag these two items into there. Next thing I want to do is to decompress them. So on Windows 11, and I think this is likely to be the same on Windows 10, you can simply go extract all, and that will extract them for you. Or as I've got it installed, I could use 7-zip, which I think is faster. I'm going to use extract all on this occasion because it's small anyway. And files will be extracted to this folder, so that's fine. So let's do the extraction. And you can see we've got the 547. Now this one will work the same way, but it takes a long time, so I'm going to use 7-zip for this, and I'm going to do extract files here. So that was about 13 seconds. If I do this with just the built-in, so extract all, you'll see the difference. And you can see this is going slower. The other difference is, so when I did 7-zip, we immediately got the extracted folder, but here I have to dive inside to get it out. So if you have done it that way, dive inside and then drag it out so it's at this level. I'll just show you where to get 7-zip if you want to do that. You don't have to, but you might find it more convenient. So here we go, that's the official site, and you can download from there. The next thing we need to do is to actually create a script to run this build. See here, like download compiler, download source, we've done that, downloaded a decompressor, you can use the built-in Windows one, installed the compiler, install a decompressor. We don't need to install decompressor because we can use the built-in functionality in Windows. We've unpacked the sources. What we do need to do is step 6, so we need to create a Windows shell script to drive the build. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this from the instructions, but I'm also either going to put this on GitHub, so you can simply copy paste or download from GitHub, or I may well put it in the video description. Anyway, I'm going to do copy, and then I'm going to create a new file which we're going to call build.cmd and get rid of the text. I'm then going to open Notepad. I would typically use Notepad++. Notepad works fine. The advantage of Notepad++ is you can do things like strip out leading spaces, but it'll work this way, and we'll demonstrate it this way for now. And I'm now going to open the file I just created, which is and paste. There's 2 changes, and only 2 changes we need to make. The first change we need to make is to set the correct Lua version, which is 5.4.7. The second change we need to make is to set the compiler path, because we're not using TDM GCC. We could avoid this, in fact, by just setting it on the system path. I'm going to just copy that bit, and you can probably see this would be, if you followed the documentation, TDM GCC, but it's now going to be this, and that's the only change we need to make. And I'm now going to save. I'm going to get rid of the untitled one. I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to run it. And when I run it, I expect it to build Lua, and it will create a folder Lua which will contain the app. So of course, this being all things software related, it doesn't work, and it says it doesn't find the make file. I think there's a good reason for that, and I think what we'll find is if we double click in here, we've got a nested folder structure. So it's looking for the makefile at this level, not this level. So what we need to do is to rename this to top, and then we can drag out this bit so it's at our Lua root level. So it should be in here, and it is, and we can now get rid of that because it's empty, so we don't need it, and I'm going to delete it. So let's run build command again and see if this works. This looks much more promising. Hello, simple Lua test successful, so it's worked. Excellent. Right, good. But we've still got a little bit more work to do, because what we need to do now is to put Lua into the system path so that we can access it from the command line, because at the moment if I open a command prompt and if I type in Lua and then V for version, you can see that doesn't work. It should work if we were actually in the folder while it's installed, but we need it to work here. To edit the environment variable, or specifically the system path, I'm going to type in system and then env, and you can see we get edit the system environment variables, and that saves trying to find it in control panel. If we click on here, I want to do this for all users, so I want to do it not for my user but for the system level, and I'm looking for path, and then I need to add the path. Now I'm actually going to make two changes, but well, let's do Lua first. So Lua now lives in here, but actually I don't really want to keep it here. You can see where it is, it's Lua X here. I actually want to move this to applications, so I'm going to open another tab by pressing that button. I'm going to go to C, I'm going to go into applications, and this is where I keep applications which basically don't have installers. So all I need to do now is to drag Lua in, and in fact you could drag min.gw64, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's drag Lua into applications and let go, and it's here, which is good. Let's dive inside, go into bin, and then you can copy from here and then go into here and create new and do a paste, and I'm actually going to do another one. You might want to, if you think you're going to want to build something else that's C or C++ or one of the GNU compiler collection compilers, you might want to move min.gw into here as well. Now it just happens that I already have it in here, but I've taken out the path so I could demonstrate that this works even when it's not in the path. So I need to recreate it, so I'm just going to do that now, and that's done. We go OK, we go OK. So the next thing, let's open command prompt again and see if that worked. Let's check if GCC worked, because actually, in fact, I'm going to run G++ and then it's double dash version, and you can see that's installed. And if I do GCC, that's for the C compiler, that's installed as well. And if I do Lua V, we've got Lua working too, so that looks promising. What we've actually achieved now is to set up a folder that is actually quite easy to produce a new binary for Lua 5.4.8, for example. I'm just going to do a cleanup because we don't need that, so I'm going to get rid of it. I don't need that anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. I don't need that because it's in my applications folder, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. Now this isn't very big. This is just the source code for Lua. You can see it's tiny. So I'm going to leave that there. If you wanted to build 5.4.8, all you would need to do is to download 5.4.8, extract it to here, would be in its own folder. Then you would go into your build and just change the version, and then it will build 5.4.8. In fact, you could comment out. In fact, you would, as I've set this up now, you would need to comment out that, and you need to comment out that, because the compiler path is now in the system path. I'm going to just prove that works still by running it again. So this time it'll be running the GC GNU compiler from there in applications. So just to prove this works. And you can see it worked. And I think there's one final thing that we should do while we're looking at this, and that is to just do a hello world program from the command line. I'm going to create a text document, and I'm going to call it main.lua, and for the minute I'm actually going to leave it as .text. If I double click that, it should open in Notepad, and then I'm going to just type the simplest program that everyone learns to write when they start doing programming, which is hello world. I'm going to modify it. I'm going to say from Lua. So we can have an excessive number of exclamation marks and close the brackets. I'm going to save that. Now we need to actually fix the file extension. Yes. Now if I run the same, I've just pressed the up arrow key, which allows you to go through previous commands. So now you get your first program running. So that proves, if you weren't convinced by the message you got from the running the script, that this is now working. So that's how you install Lua, the latest version on Windows 11. Hope you found that useful. If you did, why not click on the like and subscribe button? Anyway, have a great day.